Welcome to the He Shoots, He Draws podcast, the show about photography and design, with your hosts Glyn Dewis and Dave Clayton.
Hello and welcome to He Shoots, He Draws, the podcast with myself, Dave Clayton, and my lovely co-host,
Glyn Dewis.
Hello, Glyn.
Hello, Dave.
Now, if you listen to the pilot episode, this might show on iTunes as our second, but this is our first official episode. Yep. We're actually sat together recording this as well. Which,
we are.
Which
I don't know if we'll do it again.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we had a couple of bits of feedback from the pilot episode. So that was.
We've had some great feedback, Dave. Yeah, really good feedback. We've even got some ratings on iTunes in the first week.
So thank you for that, which is good because that is related to this week's topic. But yeah, thank you for the people who have actually left comments and taken the time to share it on social media as well. So we've got it up on iTunes now. It is also on SoundCloud, so we will have the link for that on the website. But early days, we're getting up and running and finding our feet. But this is our first official episode. Of He Shoots, He Draws.
Now we've got a long list of topics, and that list seems to be growing day by day. But what you've kind of alluded to it already, mate. But what are we going to be discussing in this particular episode?
Well, this one we thought this might be a segment, but we actually realised by the time we made the show notes that there was a lot to say. So this is going to be today's episode, and it is about commenting. It's about feedback, commenting, and sharing. It's not just one thing. And one of the things we said about this morning was we didn't want to come across like two old men just moaning about everything every episode and being like, you're going to listen to our opinion and we're going to have a moan and see you next week. That's not what we want to do. Yeah. What we actually want to do is do that. We want to moan, but we're actually going to look at why it cheeses us off.
Yeah, we're going to try and kind of get out the kind of things that I say moan, it's constructive moan, and we're going to get out what we talk about, but we're almost going to behave like we've got a split personality.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of say what we really think, and then we're going to try and think of the reasons why maybe that does happen.
Yeah.
Because obviously we can't have the listeners at the moment anyway, we can't have them phoning in and sort of having a bit of a debate going on.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of debate with ourselves, which sounds weird.
Yeah.
But bear with us.
Careful how we say that.
All right.
But
so comments then.
But yeah, so comments. Now for me, I'm not really in Glyn's world at the moment in terms of content. So a lot of this conversation today is mostly going to be a lot of Glyn's experiences and a couple of mine, but they're relative to anyone. If you put yourself out there, if you put your content out there, then you've got to be prepared to get some feedback. And there's kind of two camps of feedback. There's the positive or even negative, but so even if someone takes the time to say something negative, at least you can deal with the reason why they're saying it.
Yeah, and one thing I also want to say here as well is that what we're going to talk about, I suppose you could put it under the heading of trolls. You know, you get people who they're put under this kind of blanket name of being a troll.
And they give trolls a bad name.
But you might get people saying, don't give them the time. Just don't feed the trolls. That's not what this is about.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Because there are people out there, and I've experienced loads of it. Dave, you've had your fair share of it.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody listening to this has never had this. Or maybe they're just starting to get some negative comments. Yeah. And it's really knocking them back.
Yeah.
And it's actually making them question, do I really want to continue doing this?
Yeah.
So the real reason, I guess, behind this episode, if you want to call it that, is to say, look, you're not the only one who gets it. Everyone gets it. If you're sharing anything publicly, there will be people that will post bad stuff. That's just what they're like. But we want to kind of go through experiences that we've both had. And I suppose most of them are going to be mine. But also we're going to try and give you a little bit of advice, possibly, how you can actually deal with it. Some of it is quite sneaky.
Yeah.
So it's quite good. But this, I suppose, really has all come about from a post I did a couple of days ago.
Yeah, about your, you posted up your weekly YouTube, like graphic to show that you'll be live, and you noticed that you already had 3 dislikes.
And this was 32 hours before I was even going live. I had 3 dislikes.
So somebody had found their way to your page, they'd taken time to get to your page, got to your page, and for just because the Roman Julius Caesar with his thumb down, they clicked it. It was like, what did They disliked 3 people disliked, and you wouldn't even know why.
And I haven't got a problem with that, Dave.
No.
I've not got a problem with it. I actually find it quite
Are
funny.
you sure you haven't got a problem with it?
I haven't got a problem with it. Honestly, I've got a problem with it. It's actually quite funny. Maybe a few years ago it would have got to me. But now when you look at it, look, here we are. I'm going to go and do a YouTube live. I haven't even done it yet, and I'm getting 3 negatives. So I actually did this. I shared it on Facebook and Instagram to say, look, this shows the value of feedback, negative feedback especially, on social media. I'm getting 3 dislikes before it's even happened. So I suppose the reason I posted that originally was to say, look, try not to take it too hard.
Yeah.
It means nothing. It really means nothing. Listen, if I'm getting negatives before I've even done it, that really shows the value of a comment on a social media.
And you don't know what they're disliking. Are they disliking your name because they can't pronounce it? Or do they dislike the image? Do they dislike that they went to the page and it didn't start playing, that they had to, I've arrived here, there's nothing here for me. I don't like that. I'm moving on to attack someone else.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what the value of that dislike is. And a lot of the times you do get that kind of dislike feedback. You get the thumbs down, but don't take any notice, because if it's not backed up by anything, it's like someone looking at you funny in the street.
But what I love about this, and I say love in a kind of, I don't really love this, I just find it a bit crazy, is the fact that sometimes if you do challenge it, that you've got a negative comment, or maybe somebody posts something negative to you, and you just can't help for that one moment to reply to them, which you shouldn't really do, but you do reply to them to kind of, right, I want to try and, how dare you say this? The immediate response you get back, and I've had this so many times, is, well, if you don't want to get comments, then don't post it publicly, or welcome to the internet. You know what I mean? This is what happens on the internet. What a stupid way of arguing it. We've said about this when we were having a chat earlier on about this. We were saying that really, when they say it's in the public domain, so you're open to having this kind of stuff, that is like saying, you go and decorate your front garden. Yeah. You put some new turf down. You put some new flowers in because spring's coming. You get the tulips up and all this is going to look really nice. And some random person who walks past your front garden in the street in a public space, sees your garden, comes up. I don't like that. They're going to knock on your door.
Yeah,
say, hello. Is that your garden there? Yeah. I can't stand that. That looks absolutely terrible. What's the difference? Yeah. That's in the public. Would you really go and do that? Would you go and knock on someone's door and do that? So why is it okay to do it on social media? Yeah. I guess really it's because it's faceless.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely faceless. They're sitting at home. They're still sat in their underwear on their computer with a screen over their front on their monitor, and they're just nothing better to do than just post rubbish comments. Yeah. It's faceless. Do you know
and you get the feeling from some of the stuff you see on social media is, particularly with like the word troll. And I think it gives trolls a bad name, because at least the traditional trolls had a job to do, and they were just protecting their bridge. And if you come clippity-clopping over it, they'd say, "Oi, get off or they'll eat you."
Yeah.
But it's just, they seem to be going out of their way to just find content to dislike. And therefore, why would you take that seriously? Because it's not like, say you have had this, and we will go on to this shortly, is you have a customer, a base, a client base, a community, email community, and you provide a lot of content. And if you get somebody specifically angry at you about a specific thing, you'll deal with it. Now, you might fight your corner, you might ignore it, and there's a couple of things.
Sometimes I can't help fighting though. I just have to.
And sometimes I've sat at home and Glyn's texted me and gone, "Have you seen that comment on my post? I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to reply." And I'm like, "Whoa, no. Pump the brakes!" and I'll talk to Glyn, and we'll talk about it first, and then you don't post the knee-jerk comment. But a couple of times you've had to, and I felt you're well within your rights to respond like that, because how dare you come on and attack someone with the thought of, well, no, you can't reply to me. I just want to abuse you and criticise you and then leave the room. You have no right of reply.
It's not something I would recommend generally, that you do respond to these folks, because then it really you're entering a whole world of hate. Yeah. But sometimes I can't control myself, and I do have to reply. Although I do think about it, it is kind of like a knee-jerk reaction, right? But then I do stop after I've spoken to you most times, and I think, right, I've got to speak to these people, but how can I do this
Yeah.
in a constructive kind of way?
Kill them with kindness.
Absolutely, kill them
Yeah.
with kindness. I mean, I mentioned to you that sometimes YouTube is probably one of the worst places, I guess, for
Yeah.
giving crappy feedback. I'll bleep that out.
No, leave that in, because
All right, okay.
that is
well,
true.
it is. You do get crappy feedback sometimes on YouTube. Again, because it is faceless, and sometimes you get the most horrendous comments. And do you know what? Sometimes you want to just bark at them backwards.
Yeah.
But all I reply sometimes is those 3 words: "I love you." Yeah. And that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But what are they going to say? They're giving it, this is rubbish, blah, 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 blah. And I just put, "I love you." I never hear from them again. It just shuts them up. It's brilliant. And I never delete those either. I'll leave them in the comments so people can see what I've done. I love that.
And what's the other? So there's another thing that you did a while ago that I think it was it Scott Kelby that told you about it?
Was this the blogging thing?
About the blogging
All right,
thing.
okay. This
So
was
this
cool.
is feedback on blog. This was genius.
And this was something that I actually did say, don't tell anybody I told you this. But this is going back a few years now. But it was, I remember, because Scott has told us before, he has had some, you wouldn't believe how bad some of the comments he's had. I mean, literally sort of wishing bad things on his parents and all that kind of just unbelievably bad stuff. And I remember speaking to Scott the one time and telling him I'd had a few bad comments and I kind of deleted them. And he says, "Glyn, right," he said, "don't delete the comments. This is what you do." And this is mainly to do with blogging, because when you own a blog, you can then you can either remove someone's comments, or you can actually edit the comments. Right? You can actually edit their comment. So I remember the one time I'd gone down to Devon. Friends of ours called Keith and Bridget Trailing owned a beautiful farm. And I wanted to take a picture of Keith. Yeah. And I hadn't even seen a picture to inspire me to do this particular one, but I thought Keith's got a great big workshop, and I'll do a picture of Keith working in his workshop. Yeah. And I'll put a little speed light outside one of the windows with an orange gel on it, orange CTO gel, and it'll blast through the light, and it'll make it look like evening kind of light, and he's working away building something.
And it was a lovely photo.
But I wanted to do that. Thank you, mate. And I thought I really like doing it. It's something for Keith. So I then posted it online. The next morning, I'll never forget this. The next morning, you come in, you see you got on your email, you got a comment on your blog, and I look at it, and there's this bloke who was from America saying, "You effing this, you effing that. That is an exact copy of blah blah, whatever his name was, photographer, who I'd never heard of. Yeah, it's an exact copy of his work. How dare you? You're just a fake." Really going into it, proper going into it. And I was like, "What the hell? I've just done this picture." So I kind of log on to see who this photographer was. It was nothing like his stuff anyway. Yeah. But then I did what Scott said. I then go into WordPress and I change this bloke's comment. And I go, "Hey, Glyn, just seen that recent picture you did of your friend down in Devon. That looks just like a picture of this such and such photographer. Amazing. Keep up the great work." And then about an hour or so later, bing, email, new comment on your blog. And it's going, "Oh, you think you're so clever, changing my effing comment, blah, blah, blah. You come to America and we'll punk you up the whatever." Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, fantastic." So then I went back in again into WordPress and changed it. "Hey, Glyn, forgot to say, if ever you're in the States, we'd love to show you around." I never heard from him again. And I just thought it was genius. The best advice when it comes to dealing with comments I could ever get. It's fantastic. I don't recommend it. And if you do look at my blog and you see good comments, 99.9% of the times they're genuine. I haven't changed them.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I wrote that reply to you.
And we're still here.
But I know I had a situation with when I was before Kelby became Kelby, Kelby 1. It was Nap, and I ran a Facebook page where it was called. I think originally it was called Nap Member UK, but then it became Kelby Evangelist. Yep. And it was just really to encourage anybody who was a Nap member or Kelby 1 member to join in, and I'd be talking about content. The page was called like the Nap Evangelist page, and the strapline was, "This is a place where I'll be sharing information from the NAPP or Kelby 1 just to pass on in case anything you might miss." And I posted something about a new class, or it was just a nice share, which is something we'll talk about later. And but this guy who I wish I could remember his name because I'd actually call him out. He complained that I was basically posting too much content about NAPP.
On an NAPP page.
Evangelist page. Look up the word evangelist. And that I was basically, I think his words were like, whoring myself out, and that he took offence to it. And I sat there and thought, okay, I can do one of two things. I can react to this in an angry way, or, you know, as my mum and dad used to say, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything.
Absolutely,
so I thought,
yeah.
all I'm going to do is say nice things to this guy without, obviously, I can't change his comments like you'd be able to do on the blog post.
Yeah.
So I went back and I thanked him for his comment. I said, you know, thank you for being a member of the page and thank you for, you know, your feedback. And just to explain to you that you know, by the title of this page, this is the kind of thing you can expect on it. And, you know, if you don't like the information or you feel there's too much, whatever, feel free to leave the group. I'm not, you know, you've chosen to join this group and I'm assuming you're a Nap or Kelby member. And he came back with another negative comment. And again, I, you know, sat there and I thought and I replied. And this went on. I probably let it go on longer than it should have done, but it became a sport. Because the kinder I was being, the angrier he was getting.
Yeah.
But, and this is what takes us on to another part of this what we're talking about, is there comes a point where if you're surrounded by good people who know who you are and what you do, you can step out of the ring and let your fans step in.
I know where that's going,
And what happened was, and what we've seen is your friends take over.
Yeah.
Because then it takes you out of that angry mode of it looking like a 30 comment each long spat on Facebook no one wants to read.
And no one's going to win, to be honest with you.
No, and it never end. You know, it never. In the end, I actually had to delete the guy because he got quite abusive in the end and became quite personal. So, you know, no one needs to read that. So I deleted the whole thing. But when your friends step in, that just shows the value and it validates that what you were doing in the first place was right, because your friends will step in and, you know, if anybody went in and started getting abusive, I'd ask them to stop doing it or delete it. But sometimes it's actually nice to, you don't even have to ask your friends to do it. You will just see they'll step in and say,
I've actually used that, and I think I've actually involved you in it maybe once or twice as well, because like you say, sometimes if you've got somebody post a bad comment and you respond to it, they respond to you, and it just goes on and on and on. And getting your friends to defend you, your hands are clean, let them do the dirty work, and that's great. And I think before now, I've kind of contacted you and said, Dave, have you seen that comment on my Facebook, for example, my Instagram? And then what you've done is, you've then kind of taken a screen grab of it, shared it and gone, I can't believe someone said this to Glyn. And then wallop, everybody else is on it, and I'm just kind of sat back, like, la la la, and let everyone get on with it. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
and again, I don't advocate it, but it works.
But it's like at school when someone goes, "Hey, there's a fight in the playground," and everybody rushes to the playground, and you kind of take sides. And you know, if it's the bully beating on the little kid, you take the little kid's side.
Yeah.
And I thank all those people that took my side.
But it works. It does work.
But it works.
But you know what? I mean, there's so many things I want to kind of mention about this, and in fact, there's probably too much for an episode. Yeah. But just going back to the YouTube thing, I remember it's going back a few weeks ago now. I mean, we're in February. Let's talk, before Christmas. Yeah. I remember the one time I did a pre-recorded video, put it up on YouTube. And I thought it was quite good. I think it was to do with actually how to remove halos when you're doing cutouts and stuff. Getting lots of great comments, and then there's this one comment that just went wee, alarms went off, and all it said was, "This is rubbish, doesn't work, you're crap." That kind of a comment. I'm like, whoa, hold your horses. So I just replied back saying, I think you'll find it does work. If you do this, this and this, it actually works fine. Note the other comments where people are having success with it. Replies back, no, tried that, doesn't work, you're rubbish, or words to that effect. So then I've gone back again, couldn't help myself. See what I mean? It just goes on and on and on. I reply back and say, no, if you go to this menu or do this, change your preference to such and such. Their response then was, I don't know how to do that. I'm only 8. And I'm like, you are kidding me. And this goes on again. This is it. This is the faceless comments. Yeah. You don't know who it is who's commenting you and writing all this bad stuff. It could be like I had, an 8-year-old kid commenting. So I could have got so angry.
I've been getting bullied by an 8-year-old.
But it's crazy though, do you know what I mean? So, here we are, we're only human, we do take comments personally sometimes. They do kind of just, knock you for 6 when you don't expect it. You don't know who's doing it. It could well be that 8-year-old kid. And
just imagine if you'd replied like, F you, next minute you're on Petapixel or f-stop, isn't it? It's like top photographer abuses.
Verbally abusing. Can you imagine?
So you have
Horrendous.
to, because you don't know who's on the other end. I think that the best thing to try and do is not get into a fight. Is either get your friends to pile in and help you, but always keep it above board, because the last thing you want to lose is your
be
dignity.
the bigger person.
Exactly, yeah, and say be kind. Try and solve the problem rather than react to the problem. But I mean, there's some great other examples. There's a couple I especially wanted to mention, and this sort of moves on a little bit, where it's still feedback, but it's the thing about, and we won't go too deep into this, but it's about the whole free content thing. So again, a lot of your content that you've provided over the years to get to this point has been free content.
Yep.
And there's an expectation that you go to YouTube and you post all this lovely content for people to learn from, and you never ask for anything for it. All right, you can monetize your YouTube channel, but I remember when I was looking at some of your book reviews, because your first book, the Photoshop Workbook, which came out a couple of years ago, fantastic book, working on the sequel now. So is it a sequel or the prequel?
It's kind of a spin-off, kind of.
But so I was looking through the feedback, and obviously on the Amazon, you can't really be faceless, because I think the only ones you should take note of are the verified purchase, because they've spent the money, they bought the book. And this guide actually I wish I'd printed it off, but I'll kind of do it off the top of my head. Is the guide basically said, the book's all right. It's a nicely made book. However, a lot of the content in this book is actually available on Glyn's channel for free, and there's more content there for me to learn from than what he's put in this book. So why should I spend, what a waste of money 30 quid was, spending it on this book, when I can go to his channel and get all this free content? And hey,
thanks for the support.
Yeah, so it's like a real, talk about a backhanded compliment, but it was, what he was saying was, I've taken all this free content off you to learn, but I actually begrudge you £30.
And you know what as well,
for
Dave?
A book to back it up, that in the book it says quite clearly in the chapters that there is a YouTube video that supports this, because people like learning from books. People like learning from YouTube.
The person who did that, obviously we don't know his name, I don't, but I'm guessing that could well be a photographer that at some point has complained about a client asking him to do something for free.
Probably, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just,
and there was another one that Glyn had as well for his second book, Photographed Like a Thief, which got an amazing cover. And and I think the book pretty much is very obvious if you look at it, read about it, what it's going to do. And the comment was kind of, I bought this book, but I'm a landscape photographer. It's rubbish. I don't shoot portraits. And it was, well, but why did you spend £30 without even looking at what it was? Thank you, I've got the money now. But again, it's like people leaving comments that make no sense
at all. But you know what? I've written this down here, so I don't forget to say this. And I hope this comes across as I mean it to, which is the best way. In all the bad comments I've ever had, and I've had a few, and I'm going to have a lot more, I'm sure of it, I've never had a nasty comment, not a negative, because obviously sometimes negatives can be constructive, but I've never had a negative, nasty comment from anybody that was talented. Or should I say, somebody that is, talented, I'm going to stick to my guns here, talented, and is out there working and putting the miles in and really pushing themselves. I've never had a negative comment from someone like that.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you, hand on heart, I bet any money that Joe McNally, Joel Grimes, Dan Winters, Annie Leibowitz, Mark Seliger have never gone onto social media and posted a nasty negative comment about somebody's work. I bet they haven't.
I think they just email you directly.
Vile abuse. But you know what I mean? And again, going back to the YouTube thing, you get some real nasty comments. The first thing I will do is click on their name to see their channel.
Yeah.
And very rarely do I see any more than 0 subscribers.
Yeah.
I remember I posted once, and a few people kind of bit back at me because I was a bit out of order, but I thought, you know what, why not? I actually said, I used to put these posts up on social media, like little phrases of, not those kind of cheesy inspiration phrases, but I just put something down. I think it said something on the lines of, every time I get a negative comment, I always feel better when I go and look at that person's work.
Yeah.
It was something like
Yeah.
that, do you know what I mean? Because never have I ever had a bad comment, a negative, nasty comment from somebody whose work I've gone, wow,
Yeah.
they are good. Because the people who are, really good at what they do and they're putting the mileage in, they understand the pain, the heartache, the sacrifice that you go through to create work. So they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
This is a great community where it can be very encouraging, but it can also be very discouraging. But I think those people really, they're just ones who, do you know what? If they were at the Last Supper, they'd say, why aren't there chips?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're that kind of person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It goes back to the thing that we've said before about there's been quite a few podcasts and shows where people say, hands up who's a professional or what makes you a professional. For me, I think a professional isn't somebody who gets paid for what they do. It's just the way you behave.
No, I don't actually use that word professional either. I always, because when I do presentations, I'll always sort of say to people, right, got the audience there. I say, okay, put your hands up if you are a working photographer. I never say professional because the word professional is another word that I dislike. Yeah. It's like that word passionate. Do you know what I mean? It's just, oh no, I need to say I'm professional. What is professional? This is possibly a topic for another episode.
I need to sound professional and passionate.
I need to sound professional.
I jolly well hope so.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about my photography. Yeah, I should hope so if you're getting people to give you money. If you're not passionate, then quit. Yeah. That's not what this is about, do you know what I mean? But professional. Okay, so maybe that is somebody who doesn't mean to say their work is good, but they get paid for doing their work. Yeah. That's why I would say, okay, so who here is a working photographer? Yeah. And then I say, okay, so people put their hands up. Okay, who here is doing it because they enjoy it? And then a few people put their hands up, not everybody. What? And I go, why haven't you all put your hands up? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if it's relevant to what we're talking about.
No, it is.
I just got to say, professional means nothing. It means
so if
nothing.
you've got a room full of people, if you've got, say, I don't know, 300 people at Photoshop World and you ask that question, and it's why are you a photographer and not enjoying it? Why are you doing it? And this will be another. We'll talk this about in the next episode. I think was about the whole workshop. And it's about doing it for money, and there's doing it for money. But we won't go into that now because there's a couple more things we wanted to cover on here. There was one I wanted you to. I'd like you to drop the audio in because this is just priceless. I tell everyone where I work, we have a young lady, Lorna, who deals with all our customer complaints, and we sell software, so people just don't get that world, and sometimes they can be quite funny. Yeah. And I actually told them about the feedback you got once, where you sold a tutorial. Yeah. And I think it was like $15 for it, and this guy had a problem. And all he
hadn't received it apparently.
Yeah. And generally what happens, and we get the same at work, is when people say they haven't received it, what's happened is their email client has put it into junk, and they never think to look in the junk. So the first reaction to do is to send a really crappy email to the vendor and say, I haven't got it, you're awful, da da da. So you did, what more than what most people would have done, and you thought, I'll call the guy and see if we can sort this out.
Yeah, I kind of, this was another example of me not being able to let go. And I know people will say, Glyn, you shouldn't feed the trolls. Listen, sometimes it's just, sometimes you've got to call people out. I'm not a punch bag. No. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I've got to, I'm 46 years of age. I will defend myself when I think it's called for. So this guy, like you say, he orders a tutorial. It's automated. It's technology. Things sometimes don't work. Maybe it had gone into his spam. Maybe for some reason the link just hadn't been sent. Yeah. I don't know. But he's here to say, I've just ordered this tutorial, or yesterday, didn't get the link. So I look into it and I reply back to him saying, not a problem. Could you do me a favour? Could you just check your spam? Yeah. I'm out at the moment. Check your spam. If you haven't got it, let me know and I'll send it. He replies back saying, no, not checking my spam. I haven't got it. I'm not doing that. Send me my tutorial. Yeah. Or I want a discount. So obviously this continues. Yeah. But it ends up with me saying, him then getting really angry and saying, right, that's it. You give me my money back now. I want my money back now. And this is on his email.
He's going to badmouth you on social media.
Right, if you don't, I'm going to go on social media and I'm going to tell all my about 4 followers, that your service is terrible, you don't care, blah, 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 blah. Now, that could worry you, potentially think, hold on a second, that's my business he's going to slate off here, I've got to defend this. Yeah. So I thought, right, hold on a second. So I'm going to call this guy. So I went into CSI mode, and I found out exactly who this guy was.
Yeah.
I even found a photograph of him on social media. I found his phone number.
I sat outside his house.
I did. Well, he was actually in America. He was kind of like deep south kind of America. And I actually found out his address. I even had a Google map of his front door. I knew exactly what his house looked like. Proper. I was Liam Neeson. Taken, okay? That's what I was like.
I have a very particular set of skills.
Yeah. So I employed them. So I got his phone number and I rang him. I thought, and I recorded it. And we're going to play that now.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to play that now. So this is cue the recording.
Cue Angry
of
Matt.
this
If
guy.
you ever watch, for English people, any English listeners, if ever you used to listen to Steve Wright in the afternoon, he used to have Mr. Angry.
Yeah.
This guy makes Mr. Angry look like he's on Valium.
So I rang him because I wanted to say, hey, come on, let's sort this out. I'm happy to send you a refund if that's the case. Keep the tutorial, but let's just kind of try and resolve this, shall we? And this was the result.
Cue audio.
Hello,
Hello, is that Sam?
this is Sam.
Sam, hello, it's Glyn Dewis in the UK.
Why are you spending all this money? Just give me my fucking $15 back. That's all I want.
Sam.
I don't want your goddamn videos anymore. Why it takes you so long to get it here? You just give me my money back.
It is classic. It really is classic. All right, so there, that was Mr. Angry, which really, when I was recording that and he was just shouting and swearing like I was just laughing.
I've saved that in my Dropbox.
I've kept that because it just reminds me, and I think it's a good learning thing. I can pass that on to people and show them and play it to them later on, because somebody at some point, in our kind of the education side of what we do, you do come across people that are having a bit of a bad time, or they maybe had some bad feedback. I think me keeping that is a good thing, because I can say, listen, you're not alone. You're not the only one who gets it. This is something I had.
Yeah.
And I'm still here now.
And on the flip side of that, this is something you told me you've done as well, which I think is quite good for anybody who puts themselves out there and maybe has a blog or a place where you encourage feedback, is you actually started to keep a folder of the reviews and feedback you got from people.
Yeah, I've got like a thank you folder.
Yeah, which you try to respond to all of them in one way or another, or you thank them like as a group of people. But I think it's quite nice that, that one cutting comment can ruin your day, and it shouldn't. But just go to that folder and read the 20 people that you helped, or the person that, I think you had one that like had a bad accident and were trying to find something back in life to give them some enjoyment, and they picked up on photography and they found you on YouTube, and now they're shooting. They never had the confidence.
Mate, I haven't shown you this, but I will when we finish this recording. I'll show you this email. But I had a long email off a guy yesterday.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, I got his email in the morning, and I'm having a cup of coffee, and I'm sat at my laptop reading this email this guy had sent me through, and my eyes were sweating. I wasn't crying, my eyes were sweating. And it sounds really heavy, but basically this guy's gone in to say thank you for all the content that you've provided. If I hadn't found people, he went in to explain all these things that had happened in his life, which were horrendous, proper bad things. And he said if he hadn't found photography, Photoshop, and having had this distraction and found tutorials and the channels and the way that people like myself and Scott, Kelby, Matt Kloskowski, Dave Cross, and all these other kind of folks had shared out there, he said he would be in a very, very different place. Yeah. And when I was reading it, I was like, flipping hell. It just really, really got to me. But you are right, you could get 1,000 great comments. Yeah. You get one negative. What do you remember? You remember the negative. Yeah. But I guess we're going to try and wrap this up in a second. But my kind of finishing thing to say with this, Dave, and I'm sure you want to say a little bit more, but my finishing thing with this is try not to let comment. It's easier said than done, I know. Yeah. But try not, initially when you react to a bad comment, eventually just try and let it go. Yeah. Because they mean nothing. For example, the 3 negatives I got on the YouTube before I'd even posted it, 32 hours before I'd even done it. Yeah. There will be some people out there that, we all post stuff online. And yes, it's nice to be accepted and liked and see that what we've posted is being accepted and liked.
We all seek validation.
We do. Absolutely we do. But don't think that, it's not all about how many likes we get. It means nothing. There are people out there, incredibly well-known people, do you know what I mean, who've got some great work and they get some great feedback on it. But then tomorrow they could go and post a photograph on Instagram of a sock that fell out of the laundry basket and is on the kitchen floor, and they post that picture on Instagram. That will have thousands of likes. Yes. Do you know what I mean? That to me just sums it up.
And does that mean that
matter.
picture's better than your last picture?
Doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely no, it doesn't. So really, don't let your kind of photography life, be it professional or just something that you thoroughly enjoy, don't let it be ruled by likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
If you enjoy it, if you get enjoyment out of it and you actually love it, it's escapism for you, then great.
Yeah, absolutely.
If somebody's commenting, make a bad comment on your stuff, don't necessarily do what I've done, and that's kind of like sometimes feel like you need to get back to them. Just block them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, and following on from that, my sort of wrap-up thoughts was one of the reasons why we said at the beginning about, we could sit here and moan about things, but Glyn touched last week on when we did our introduction, and he said, Dave, you undersell yourself, and explained like what I've been like. And looking at the positive side of this, so talking about people who leave positive comments or who take the time to leave a constructive comment, not a criticism, not a critique, because I would always try and email or contact someone like direct messaging rather than do it publicly. But one of the things we were talking about Instagram was if you do post a lot of content on Instagram and you start to see you've got likes and comments, go through those comments and take out the ones that just say OMG, amazing, awesome, or the little prayer hands or a little heart, because that, even though that is a positive comment, I would never take that as like that's a nice bit of feedback for me to work from, because a lot of them aren't even real people. They just post a generic positive thing in the hope that you'll follow them back, and quite often they're not even a real account. But also, if you are posting some bad content and you think you're good, but you're getting all these amazings, and you believe that, you're never going to improve. You are going to be one of the 20,000 people outside Wembley Arena queuing up for X Factor because your mum's always told you got a beautiful voice like an angel, probably like a Hell's Angel falling down a tree. But you never progress. You never understand how you can improve. So again, these are still kind of negative comments because they're not positive enough. They're very generic. So
what you're saying there is kind of making me think that what I used to do when I was doing the bodybuilding, and I always used to say that when I was training, I only took advice from people who had a physique that I aspired to have. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose what you're saying here is, if you're going to look for feedback, yes, it's great to get validated, and what these little kind of I like that, or amazing, OMG, prayer hands, thumbs up, whatever, doesn't really mean anything. Don't be guided by that. If you want real feedback, so that you can actually really look from an outside view of your photography, how can I improve it, or your design work, obviously. Speak to your peers. Speak to people who are doing work that you really admire. Get them, as long as they're honest with you and they're constructive and they're able to do that, get them to give you the feedback. I remember when I was in the gym, I try to relate things to gyms sometimes.
What's a gym?
Gymnasium. I remember there was when I was competing, I was pretty good standard. And I remember I was in the gym and there was this young lad who was, he'd been training for a couple of years. He was looking okay, I guess. He wasn't anything like, massive. And he's curling, he's doing some dumbbell curls with some dumbbells. And obviously. And I kind of, my arms were a part of a body part that would just worked on really well. And they grew really, really well. Certain exercises just really responded to it. So I go over to him and say, look, mate, I said, just out of interest, have you ever tried doing it like this? Maybe just twist the arm as it comes up so you get the full kind of range of motion. And, I was a lot bigger. I was like 19 stone, 276 pounds. And this guy was probably about 140 pounds. And I said to him, just try doing this. And he's gone, no, it's okay. I know what I'm doing. Okay, not a problem. I've offered it, not a problem.
You didn't stay there and go, whoop, and laugh and kick sand in his
absolutely
face.
not. No. But I was trying to help. I didn't go in there and sort of, well, what are you doing? You look really skinny. It was trying to be constructive.
And that's kind of what I've tried to do, because, I'm always learning. I think you should never stop learning. And one of the things that I make time to do, and it's a thing I pride myself on, is I get on with people in the industry, and people know me in the industry, because I like to behave in such a way that I think I'd like to be treated if I was at their level. And that is comment something relative to what they've posted. we're all entertainers on social media. That's all we do. We're entertaining everybody else with our life. But if it's someone's business and they're kind of using social media to help build their brand, I will always send an email. I will always share content. And if I share content, here's a little tip for social media. Instead of just retweeting something, on Twitter, you've got two options. You've got retweet and quote retweet. And what I try to do is, if I'm going to retweet something, I'll use the quote retweet. And what that means is I can add my comment to what I've just shared. So instead of just sharing it and not really explaining why, some of it's quite self-explanatory and you can do that. But quite often I'll put, oh, check this post out by so-and-so, and I'll tag them in it. I always get my resources from this place, or I always watch this person's channel.
So you're validating what
I'm validating
posted,
why I'm sharing it. Is that, you know, I'm just, if you trust my opinion, I'm just saying I'm passing it on. I'm passing it forward.
Yeah.
And this is why. And the same on Facebook or anywhere. I try to leave a comment that is great. I love that tutorial. I like the way you did this. What a nice thing to share that. Or thanks for the free download. It's been really useful. I used it on this project. That has kind of been a big part of it that's got me, even my job today. It's the fact that interacting in the industry like that does go a long way. And even as, you know, we're a podcast, there's hundreds and thousands of podcasts, and we're not competing with anybody. We're just delivering some content ourselves. Now, I've been inspired to sort of do this podcast with you, and the other one that I do is because I listen to some great podcasts. I listen to some great content, and my journey to work every day is listening to other people's podcasts. And I've picked up tips and tricks, and I've contacted every single one of those podcasts and said, love your content. Thanks for today's episode. It was really good. This really hit a nerve today. One in particular I'm going to shout out to because it's been quite influential for me is called Adventures in Design, and it's a daily show, and I listen to it on my commute to work. And I've learned so much about my industry from this show because the guy not only puts in effort to research his guests, but he shares all that information and his story. And the community he's built on this Slack channel and in social media, all the comments people post are always like, man, you really helped me out today. I've been stuck in this rut, and you talking about your own personal problem and your pain or your solution.
And how good do they feel getting those kind of comments?
Exactly, and that's what keeps this guy
hint,
going.
Hint,
every
everybody.
Yeah. And you know, we aspire to be delivering that kind of advice rather than content for entertainment's sake. Is, you know, we will wear our hearts on our sleeve on some content.
But we're not the two old boys off the Muppet Show.
No.
Okay, there is kind of meat on the bones when it comes to us kind of saying what we're saying.
And today was really basically all about make sure you leave us a positive comment. It was just really, don't get too downhearted by it, and try and manage. You know, you get good feedback and bad feedback, but make sure that you manage the bad feedback well, and you're surrounded by good people because, you know, Glyn and I can talk about stuff like this. But also, you know, on the good content, on the good comments and the good feedback, make it count. You know, give it some value. And if somebody does leave you a good comment or good feedback, take the time to respond.
Cool. Because
it goes a long, long way.
It certainly does.
So the motto of the story is just be a nice person.
Be a nice guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Or girl.
Don't be a hole.
Yeah.
All right. There's enough of them in the world. There's enough of them running countries in overseas.
Don't even go there. Don't even go there. All right.
But yeah, that's kind of wraps up.
I think that's pretty much. We could go on, but we don't need to get into tears, crying, and all the things we've got to experience because you're going to experience them as well.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear if you've got another method of responding or helping. Please, you know, share that information on the comment page on the website, which is glyndewis.com/HSHD podcast, or on social media.
It's the website will be done, so we won't have to do all that Glyn Dewis blah.
Oh, cool.
But we will get that done. But for now, like Dave says, glyndewis.com/HSHD podcast.
Yeah, and on social media, it's where everything is he shoots, he draws. So you can leave us comments on there, whether they're good, bad, ugly, whatever. We appreciate all the feedback. We appreciate you. If you're nasty, we will kill you with
And we'll change your comment anyway.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. I think that's it then, mate. That's it.
And We'll see you on episode 2.
The official episode 2, which is really in the listings, episode 3.
Yes.
That's getting confusing.
I know.
All right. Right then, catch you later.
Episode C.
Episode C. See you or hear you next time.
See you next time. Bye. Today's episode was sponsored by Rocky Nook, publishers of great photography books by authors such as Scott Kelby, Alan Hess, and our very own Glyn Dewis. For your chance to win a free book, just leave us a comment, but make it a good one.
Or we'll change it.
Today's episode was sponsored by Rocky Nook. Rocky Nook. Rocky Nook. Rocky Nook. Rocky Nook.